Let me be brutally honest with you right now. John Cena just buried another wrestler's legacy, and WWE is acting like we should be celebrating it. That's right, I said it. At Crown Jewel, Cena defeated Edge Styles in what they are calling an all-time classic, but here's what nobody's talking about. This is the exact same pattern we've seen for 2 decades. Cena shows up after months away, gets handed a main event spot over full-time wrestlers who've been grinding every single week, wins the match, and then disappears again while the locker room is left to pick up the pieces. And you know what? I'm tired of pretending this is okay just because Cena cuts a good promo and hits an attitude adjustment. But before we get into the absolute chaos of this match and what it means for both men's futures, I need to know something from you right now. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think part-time wrestlers like Cena should be allowed to defeat full-time talent in major matches? Because this is getting out of hand, and we need to talk about it. Now, let's rewind to Crown Jewel on the 11th of October, 2025. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The atmosphere was absolutely electric, and I'll give credit where it's due. These two absolute legends delivered a match that had the entire wrestling world talking. But here's where my blood starts boiling. Edge Styles, one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time, a man who's carried WWE programming on his back for years, who's put on classics with everyone from Shinsuke Nakamura to Roman Reigns, comes into this match with everything to prove. This was supposed to be his moment. This was supposed to be the night that Edge Styles reminded everyone why he's called the Phenomenal One. And what happened? Cena wins. Again. The match itself, I have to admit, was an absolute masterclass in professional wrestling storytelling. From the opening bell, you could feel the intensity. These two men have history that goes back years, and every single move in that ring told a story. Edge came out aggressive, hitting Cena with that lightning-quick offense that's made him a household name. The Pele kick, the phenomenal forearm attempts, the precision strikes that have put down giants. Edge was bringing everything in his arsenal. And for about 25 minutes, he was absolutely dismantling John Cena. Here's a question for the comments. What was your favorite spot from this match? Because there were at least 5 moments that had me out of my seat. The psychology of this match was off the charts. Cena was selling like his career depended on it, making Edge look like an absolute killer. There was this sequence in the middle of the match where Edge hit a springboard 450 splash, and I genuinely thought it was over. The referee counted to 2.9, and the entire arena held their breath. That's the kind of drama that makes wrestling beautiful. Edge followed up with a Styles Clash attempt, but Cena powered out, and you could see the frustration building on Edge's face. The storytelling was phenomenal, pun absolutely intended. But then we get to the finishing sequence, and this is where I start having problems. Cena hits his comeback. You know the one. The flying shoulder tackles, the protobomb, the 5-knuckle shuffle. It's the same sequence we've seen 1,000 times. And look, I get it, it's his signature, it's what the fans expect. But when you're trying to tell me this is an all-time classic that closes out a rivalry, I need more than the greatest hits compilation. I need evolution. I need growth. I need something that tells me these two learned from each other. Edge kicked out of the first attitude adjustment. The crowd went absolutely insane. He kicked out of the second one. People were losing their minds. We were witnessing something special. Edge hit a phenomenal forearm out of nowhere. Cena kicked out at 2, and the place erupted. This is what main event wrestling is supposed to be. Two absolute pros trading finishing moves, the near falls getting closer and closer, the tension building to an almost unbearable level. And then Cena hit a third attitude adjustment off the second rope, and it was over. 1, 2, 3. John Cena wins. The 16-time world champion adds another massive victory to his resume, and Edge Styles, the workhorse, the full-time performer, the man who's been here week after week after week, takes the loss. Now, before you blow up my comment section, and please do, because I want to hear your thoughts, let me explain why this bothers me so much. This isn't about John Cena as a person. By all accounts, Cena is one of the greatest ambassadors wrestling has ever had. His work with Make-A-Wish is legendary. His dedication to the business for decades is undeniable. His Hollywood success has brought mainstream attention to WWE. I'm not questioning any of that. What I'm questioning is the booking. What I'm questioning is WWE's continued reliance on this pattern where part-time legends come back and beat full-time talent in high-profile matches. Because here's what happens next. Cena's going to go back to Hollywood, he's going to film his movies, he's going to do his press tours, and he'll show up again in a few months for another big payday. Meanwhile, Edge Styles has to show up on SmackDown next week and explain to the fans why he lost. He has to rebuild momentum. He has to work his way back up the card. Comment below, should WWE have pulled the trigger and given Edge the victory here? I want percentages, people. Let's talk about the implications of this result. This match was billed as the culmination of their rivalry, the final chapter in the story of Cena versus Styles. If this is truly the end, then Edge lost the war. Yes, he's beaten Cena before. Yes, they've traded victories over the years. But when it came down to the final match, the one that would be remembered in the history books, Cena got his hand raised. And in wrestling, that final victory matters more than anything else. For Cena, this win does absolutely nothing for him. He doesn't need the credibility. He doesn't need the momentum. He's John Cena. He's already a guaranteed Hall of Famer. He's already one of the biggest stars wrestling has ever produced. This victory doesn't move the needle for him in any meaningful way. But for Edge, this loss is devastating from a booking perspective. At 48 years old, Edge Styles doesn't have unlimited time left in his career. Every major match matters. Every opportunity to cement his legacy matters. And when you're given the chance to close out a historic rivalry with a win over John Cena at a premium live event, that's the kind of moment that defines the twilight of a career. Instead, Edge's defining moment is coming up short. Here's what really gets me fired up, though. The wrestling business has always had this problem. The older generation protecting their spot, the veterans refusing to put over the younger talent, or in this case, refusing to put over the current talent. And I can already hear some of you typing, but Edge Styles isn't young talent. He's in his 40s. You're absolutely right. But Edge is current talent. He's on your programming every single week. He's the guy you're asking fans to invest in for the next year, maybe 2 years. Why would you book him to lose to someone who's barely around? This isn't a new complaint. We've been having this conversation for years. We had it with The Rock coming back to beat Centimeter Punk. We had it with Goldberg coming back to squash Kevin Owens. We had it with Brock Lesnar's entire run. And we're having it again with Cena beating Edge Styles. The pattern is exhausting, and it actively hurts the full-time roster. Now, let me pivot for a second, because I don't want this entire video to be negative. The match itself was incredible. If we remove the booking frustration and just analyze the in-ring work, this was absolutely worthy of being called an all-time classic. The chemistry between these two is undeniable. They've wrestled each other enough times that they know exactly how to work together, where to place the big spots, when to slow down for drama, when to speed up for excitement. There was this moment, about 30 minutes into the match, where both men were down on the canvas, and the referee started his count. The crowd was chanting for both wrestlers, split right down the middle. Let's go Cena, Edge Styles. Let's go Cena, Edge Styles. That organic crowd reaction, that genuine investment in both competitors, that's what wrestling is all about. In that moment, it didn't matter who was going to win. What mattered was that we were watching two masters of their craft telling a beautiful story. Question for the comments: where does this match rank in Cena's all-time greatest matches? Top 5? Top 10? The technical wrestling on display was absolutely phenomenal. Edge was busting out moves we haven't seen from him in months. There was a calf crusher that had Cena screaming in pain, selling it like his leg was about to snap. Cena was doing things we rarely see from him anymore, including a sunset flip powerbomb off the apron that had everyone gasping. These weren't two guys going through the motions. These were two competitors who genuinely wanted to steal the show. And they did. Crown Jewel had a stacked card, but everyone's talking about Cena versus Styles. Mission accomplished from that perspective. WWE got their headline. They got their social media buzz. They got their mainstream sports coverage. John Cena in a classic match is always going to draw attention. But at what cost? That's the question we need to be asking. At what cost to the full-time roster? At what cost to building new stars? At what cost to Edge Styles' legacy? Here's the reality that WWE doesn't want to acknowledge: you can't build for the future if you're constantly relying on the past. John Cena is the past. He's a glorious past, a legendary past, but he's still the past. Edge Styles, despite being in his 40s, represents the bridge between the past and the present. He's the guy who can work with the young talent, elevate them, teach them, and still deliver main event matches. By having Cena go over, you're telling the audience, the past is still more important than the present. And before anyone says, it's just one match, stop overreacting, let me remind you that in wrestling, everything matters. Every match tells a story. Every victory builds momentum. Every loss has consequences. When you book your part-time legends to beat your full-time talent consistently, you're training your audience not to invest in the current roster because they know the legends are always going over when it counts. So where do we go from here? Well, if this truly is the end of the Cena-Styles rivalry, then Edge needs to bounce back strong. He needs a program that reminds everyone why he's phenomenal. He needs victories, he needs momentum, and he needs to be protected. Because if WWE just throws him into a mid-card storyline after losing to Cena, then what was the point? What did this match accomplish besides giving Cena another notch in his belt? Final question for you, what should be Edge Styles' next feud after Crown Jewel? Give me names in the comments. Look, the match was incredible. 5 stars, instant classic, all-time great, whatever you want to call it. The in-ring work was everything you could ask for. But the result? The booking decision? That's where I have my problems. And I think if you're being honest with yourself, you probably have some questions too. This is the conversation we need to be having as a wrestling community. Not just blindly celebrating every match that's good, but asking the harder questions about what these results mean long term. Because wrestling isn't just about individual matches. It's about storytelling over months and years. It's about building stars who can carry the company. And when your part-timers keep winning, you're not building anything except nostalgia. John Cena vs. Edge Styles at Crown Jewel was an all-time classic match with a frustrating finish. That's my take, and I'm sticking to it. Now it's your turn. Light up those comments. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. Tell me where this match ranks for you. And most importantly, tell me if you think WWE made the right call having Cena go over. Because this is the discussion that matters.